Hi there, and welcome to another astrology and AFL rabbit hole. So, today I have been looking at these rookies. So, in particular, looking at Harley Reid, Jed Walter, Kobe McKercher, Dan Curtin, and Zane Dersma is where I started. So, these young men have something very interesting in common. So just a little astro info in case you do not speak the language. I am talking about the North Node and the South Node, which are mathematical points in space. So as the Earth orbits the Sun, the Moon orbits the Earth, and where the Moon's path intercepts the ecliptic or apparent path of the Sun, that is where the lunar nodes are. So when each of us exit the mother's body, these points in space are in a particular part of the sky, and these zodiac positions speak to certain ancient wisdoms that we can learn about ourselves. The North Node on a birth chart is representative of our soul mission. It is an insight into our passion and talents. It's the growth we need to access our fullest potential. It's where we're going, it's our karmic path and our greatest desires. The South Node on our birth chart is the lessons, wisdom, and baggage we bring with us, the things we are born with. It is things we do instinctively and things that we already know. It's our ancestor gifts and the gifts from past lifetimes that we bring with us. So the North and South Node change signs every around 18 to 20 months. The current positions of the North and South Node since July are the North Node is in Aries and the South Node is in Libra. So all of these young men have an Aries North Node and a Libra South Node. So a North Node in Aries makes you self-assertive. It is an independent energy. It is like a full of life type of force. One of the likely careers for somebody with a North Node in Aries, amongst others, is competitive contact sports like football. A South Node in Libra, it brings with it the ability to be in tune with others, separate from the needs of yourself. So it's like a raw knowing of balance and relationship building. And it comes with the knowledge of being able to look at situations from both angles. And it comes with it also an inner craving for wanting to learn and wanting to gain knowledge from all perspectives. So on the 15th of October at 2:30 a.m., we experienced a new moon solar eclipse in Libra. So this represents in astrology fated and transformative events that put us on the path to our futures. So I find it very interesting that that was also the weekend that the 2023 AFL Draft Combine occurred. So these young men having their North Node currently activated by the North Node being in Aries, as it is in their charts, is supporting their movement toward their future goal, which in this case is competitive sports. And at the same time, are faced with a fated and life-transforming weekend while this eclipse took place. So this eclipse period energy will transform our Libra Aries axis placements in the birth chart for about the next 5 years. Now, there are already a number of players across the teams that do have a North Node, South Node on the Libra Aries axis. Most of them, however, are in the opposite direction. So they have a North Node in Libra and a South Node in Aries, whereas what we are talking about here is the opposite to that. So let me share some other interesting things about my deep dive down this rabbit hole. Firstly, just to point out, To get a completely accurate birth chart, I need time of birth and confirmation of place of birth, which obviously I don't have, unless of course somebody has these things on the players, please send them through to me. But otherwise, you know, I've kind of worked with the ones that don't change regardless of time of birth, but you know, I can't be as accurate. So here are some things that I found intriguing down this rabbit hole. Now, I have done birth charts for other sports before, MMA fighters and also NRL, but mostly I've concentrated on AFL players. But across all of these types, there is a common denominator. All of the players at the top of their game have stelliums in their chart. So for the non-fluent astro people, a stellium in our birth chart is where we have 3 or more placements in the same zodiac position. So having a stellium in your life means that you have like a heavily influenced energy across a lot of parts of who you are as a person. So in the areas that those stellium planets rule. Okay, so another way to think about it is if you think about the many different aspects of the human psyche. So our ego, how we communicate, our emotional needs and desires, how we build relationships, how we take action, how we expand, how we build our own personal rule structures, how we make changes to those structures, how we dream and imagine, our subconscious shadowlands, and there are many others if you want to get into the smaller positions that are all out there, okay? So those are the ones that I mostly am dealing with when I'm looking at the charts today. So each of these placements is related to a planet, and each of these is in a zodiac position in the sky. So these archetypes, if you imagine that they all speak a different language. And so across all of these parts of our psyche, if each of them is different, we have to learn how to speak those languages of that zodiac archetype. So if you have a dominating energy or you have a lot of placements in the same zodiac position, it's as if they speak the same language. And it is as if we don't have to learn as many languages to figure out who we are. And it gives you a more direct focus, in my experience. So for an example, let's take a look at some players that are at the top of their game, and using the 10 most common birth chart placements, this is what we can see, okay? So Charlie Curnow of Carlton, he's an Aquarius Capricorn stellium. He has 3 planets in each. Sam Walsh from Carlton also is a Cancer stellium with 6, so that's 6 out of 10. Sam Doherty as well from Carlton, he is a Libra Scorpio stellium, so he has 3 in Libra and 4 in Scorpio. Taylor Walker of Adelaide, he's Taurus Capricorn stellium, he has 3 in each. Toby Green from GWS, he's a Libra Capricorn stellium, 4 in Libra, 3 in Capricorn. Lockie Neal from Brisbane, he is a Gemini stellium with 4 placements in Gemini. Hugh McCluggage from Brisbane, he's a Pisces stellium with 5 placements in Pisces. And then we see a few just very interesting ones like Marcus Bontempelli from the Bulldogs, who is a Sagittarius stellium with 7 placements in Sagittarius. If I could get his birth time, I would love to get a look at his exact chart. Christian Petrarca from the Demons, he's a Capricorn stellium with 5 placements in Capricorn. Rory Laird from Adelaide, Capricorn stellium with 6 placements in Capricorn. So the other common denominator there you may have noticed is Capricorn energy. So Capricorn is I build energy. It is ruled by Saturn, who is like the taskmaster, and he embodies traits like the father energy, inner authority, stubbornness, self-restraint, lessons of maturation through accepting responsibility in one's actions. And it is that mature masculine energy. It's mainly interested in taking big strides and dealing with reality. It's the energy of the Capricorn to set ambitious goals and to leave their lasting mark on the world. Capricorn energy is also very skilled at planning work and working the plan regardless of who might be watching. They work from their own inner authority. And Capricorn is where we find discipline energy because it's such a hard-working energy. And it's often that you see that where these placements are in people's charts are where they are able to be responsible and keep their head down and work. So let's take a look at these rookies. So first up, Harley Reid. So from reading his chart, I can see that he has no stellium in his chart. There is also no Capricorn present across his planetary positions. So Capricorn does rule his 7th house of partnerships, which means that he would be very practical and very cautious when building relationships, likely preferring small groups because Capricorn in the 7th house can bring out the kind of hermit vibe of Capricorn energy, and it can create shyness in large groups. So he would likely find his ability for discipline through building stable and successful relationships. He is someone who would know himself very well, and he takes his action through being comfortable with his individuality, even if people don't understand it. His masculine energy is presented through a confident, quirky, rebellious filter. And this energy is gifted with a powerful mind and an insatiable need for freedom. He would build relationships through that Taurus energy, that provider energy. So they would be finding comfort in knowing that his individuality has a place in a team or a family environment. So this energy is also very centered on the physical world and its comforts, and often takes a while to feel comfortable with other people. But once it does, it enters that comfort and it will provide for them as if they are family. So then I looked at the chart in relation to the overall energy of the teams and where I feel like those energies would best complement each other. So the overall team energies that I think would best complement Harley's birth chart energy is Collingwood, because I think their overall energy would be very accepting of his individual freedoms. Port Adelaide and the Demons as well, their overall energy involves building comfort within a family kind of dynamic. And I think the Demons would also benefit from having such a revolutionary thinker to add to their energy of predominantly practical thinkers. And North Melbourne, because their overall energy would likely support his fire energy and his individuality, as well as the need that he has to build relationships in a cautious manner. Then we have Jed Walter. So Jed is a Cancer stellium. He has 3 placements in Cancer. There is no Capricorn again across his planets, but it rules his 5th house of pleasure, meaning that there is a risk here of an unbalanced work and play dynamic. Capricorn is not, it's the discipline energy. So it's not very, it doesn't like spontaneity very much. So the play aspect of his chart is one that needs to be planned and one that seems practical. So this idea of not liking spontaneity, that it is something that must be learned in order to best embody this Capricorn energy in the chart. So it can also show someone who suffers from fear and panic because of the inability to relax, being that something so serious is in the house of pleasure. So this is a very sensible energy, but it does come with imagination and a great sense of humor, even though it could present quite coldly at first. And he would find his ability for discipline through choosing things that give him joy and feel stable. He is very perceptive, but communication is very important. He likes to talk things out with people. He's able to see and exist in the polarity of humans very easily, and he would take action through the idea of letting things happen and going with the flow. There's almost an indirect and unpredictable way to how this energy asserts itself. And sometimes the softness that comes from this position can also create explosive outbursts, as it tends not to assert the masculine energy, because Pisces is a very passive energy. So it does struggle to use the masculine energy through it as fiery as it needs to be used. And so that's where you might get an explosive outburst from. but these outbursts are met with personal guilt for it, okay? Then we are looking at how building relationships, right? So building relationships here is like through social groups, and it involves a really deep need for being understood and being able to have people that he can communicate with. So then looking at the team energies, I think the overall energies that would be compatible would be Fremantle. Their overall energy is kind of a go with the flow sort of energy, and it does like to be able to see both sides of the polarity of humans and have balance there, and it is open to people being individuals. Hawthorne and Sydney as well, their overall energy would help his passive energy find direction, while it would still provide him with the ability to be understood. And the West Coast Eagles as well, they have a lot of air energy in their chart, in their overall energy of the team, and so that is very compatible with the importance of communication in this chart. Then Kobe McKercher. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. So Kobe is an Aries stellium. He has 3 placements in Aries as well as his North Node. So there is no Capricorn at all in this chart. And for someone who reads birth charts, that is very interesting. And it's not very common at all to see a zodiac archetype not present at all across planets and houses. So then you need to look at where that Capricorn energy is. And so the ruler of Capricorn is Saturn. So we look to where Saturn is at in his chart, and we see that he would find his discipline and mature authority being ruled by Aries and Taurus instead of Capricorn. And so his ability to put his head down and get to work in a disciplined way are powered by whether he has passion for it and whether it provides him with material rewards. So this is also someone very confident with who he is, how he communicates, and how he builds relationships. There's a very direct energy with how he forms connections with people, and he can be very intense and passionate about it. There is also a very impulsive energy here, and he likely seems like he is always on the move, always doing something, always meeting up with people, very chatty. It can come across also, though, as very moody because of the intensity of the emotions. He can sometimes present as moody. So his social life would bring him a lot of material satisfaction, and he would prefer to build long-lasting connections. But he holds no unrealistic expectations of people. He rather holds on to practical values and morals. So the energy that I think would be the best is, you know, GWS. They've got that entertainer kind of passion energy, and I think that being where he finds his discipline, I think he would really want to work hard for them if he could get into that same energy. And I also think the Swans would support the passion and fire as well as his confident communication. Then next up, Dan Curtin. Now, Dan is a Pisces stellium. I always think Pisces is a very interesting energy to be in a football player's chart. So he has 3 placements in Pisces, and he has a Mars in Capricorn. So this is the first one that we have here on the list that has Capricorn in the planets. And this position is a very hard working placement, and it has an emphasis on the long game. So this is someone who is unafraid to put in the effort because he has an innate desire for victory. And Capricorn here also ruling his 9th house, which really gives him a preference for traditional values and a boundless desire for charity. And this is someone who strives to become consistent and persevering and purposeful. He would easily overcome difficulties that arise in his life. However, like the belief systems that he holds could be very stiff. And it's very hard for somebody with this Capricorn placement to make change in pace or direction once they set out to do something, which can be a good and a bad thing. And he would find his ability for discipline through upholding his values and through being in groups that share the same values and the same overall work ethics. So this is someone who has likely experienced a lot of darkness within relationship connections, and as a result takes very balanced movements forward from like a mature, responsible and individual way. It's not someone who's afraid to be alone and probably often finds himself needing to take some time out to be alone. He builds relationships best with people who have stable and sensible values. But he can find himself like searching for like that perfect dream connection without being able to put any ordered thoughts to what that is. Because this is someone who would intuitively know if they will have a connection or not with someone. And it's somebody who can see through the mask of any facade that people put up in front of them, even though they may not be able to put that into words, because this energy is deeply intuitive. So the teams that I think have the overall energy that would best work well with this chart would be the Gold Coast. I think their overall energy would understand the darker nature to this emotional world in this chart. But also, I think it would give him a place to use any of that passive energy through a more fiery passion. And I think the demon's energy would also be supportive to this energy because of its need to work hard and to find stable relationship connections. Then I looked into Zane Dersma. So Zane has no stellium in his chart and no Capricorn across the planets. And Capricorn here rules his 7th house of partnerships, so very practical and cautious when building relationships, preferring small groups because that 7th house bringing out the Hermit or the Capricorn shyness, and finding his ability for discipline through stable and successful relationships. Which he would build these relationships, and that is essential to how he finds comfort and where he finds his worth. So both his internal worth and his material worth is found in the building of solid relationships. So he takes action through being comfortable with his individuality, even if people don't understand it, and his masculine energy coming through that quirky, rebellious, confident filter. This is someone who is very good at coming up with new ideas and very good at articulating them. Now, this is an impulsive energy as well, but it makes him very good at making decisions and very good at adapting to change. So this energy, though, would work best with an energy around it, supporting it with plans, because that is a downfall of this energy. So he builds relationships through a Taurus energy, which is that provider energy, that I build energy, and finding comfort in that, knowing his individuality has a place in the team or the family environment. This energy is centered on the physical world, and its comfort is often found with people who are similar, who do accept, okay? Can take a while to get comfortable around people, but once it does, it will provide for them like it is their family. So the overall team energies I think would work best here are Carlton, because I think they'd be very supportive to that family space that he requires to build relationships. And it would also be very open to him expressing his individual ways as part of a team dynamic. I also think Port Adelaide would provide that supportive energy as well as uplift his individual flair. The information that can be found in a birth chart analysis goes much deeper than the levels of these few placements I've worked with for this overview. But it looks to me that a lot of these newer players are going to be bringing a very interesting vibe to the teams. The lack of Capricorn in the planets means that they are going to be finding that discipline and hardworking nature through other areas, which looks to be through their own individual passions and an understanding of the importance of finding the community that accepts you for who you are. Capricorn energy tends to find its discipline in community through like-minded hard workers. So it is very intriguing that at this point in astrology, where we are moving towards a time that has a more collective focus, that these new players are shifting that idea and putting an importance on being accepted for their own nature and passion first, therefore being able to be their true selves in the community, which is what empowers them to be disciplined at the task that they're doing, instead of forcing themselves into a box that they don't fit in just to be part of a hardworking team. This craving to be themselves and accepted for it in community also promotes an understanding and empathy of others. Whereas Capricorn tends to pull away from any of that and stick to traditional values and a disconnection from emotion in order to get the work done. So in this place in astrology where we are moving towards a collective ideal, we are also seeing the rise of emotional and spiritual intelligence. And so it's very interesting to me that these new players have a huge shift in where they find their discipline and how they relate to these traditional values that just exist in a completely different space on their charts. Very intriguing to me. So that's my overview on these 5 rookies for today. Thank you for watching. If you want help to learn how to use your birth chart and the universal energy available to us to enhance your life, or to help you understand who you are and why you are programmed to think the way that you think, have a look on my website for some emotional and spiritual health guidance, or across all of my social media platforms as well. And until you see my face again, stay weird.